Welcome to the Rebel Radio podcast on a Friday night. This is Mark.
This is Matt.
And we are live streaming it again. We got it to work this week.
Give it another go.
Yeah, a nifty little thing called StreamYard, which allows us to broadcast from our homes in this time of COVID-19 and do our part to social distance and not record in studio like I'm in studio, so half of us in studio.
Yeah, half in studio. I am remote.
You're your makeshift studio, your temporary studio, till we can do it in the room again. Wait, we're not doing anything like that. That doesn't sound right.
You say rim? Okay, rim.
Hey, whatever you. No, the room. There will be no rimming going on. What's wrong with you?
It is not that kind of podcast. There are some of those out there. This is not one.
But so how have you been, man?
It's been good. We had Easter and it was surprisingly pleasant. I think, Easter was, surprisingly had an upside for, the circumstances.
True. Yeah, made the most of it. Luckily Easter, someone's geared towards the children and they don't care either way. They're like, yeah, whatever. They had a good time.
Yeah. So get them their chocolate, maybe some indoor egg hunting and a rabbit movie of some sort. Mine
were hyped up on so much candy. I thought they were going to run faster than the Easter Bunny. It's like,
oh yeah.
I turn around. My daughter's in her basket just eating all her candy before she even had breakfast that morning. I'm like, what are you doing?
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, we have viewers. Welcome people on Facebook Live.
Welcome.
Welcome
to the show.
Our good buddy, our good pal James is on there for a second.
James,
he may still be in there. That's a great pick, James.
That's a great pick.
And welcome to anybody viewing on Facebook Live. We're recording our podcast amidst social distancing and COVID-19, and I've been good too, man. It's not been too bad of a week. Work was work, as we're still considered essential workers, and and things like that. But it is what it is, and as the world is a changing place all around us right now, as things have been a little crazy to say the least.
Yeah, the times we are in.
And but that's why we're doing this, man. We're going to continue to find a way to podcast. We did we live streamed a couple weeks ago, and we wanted to try to keep people entertained in this time of you can't go to the movie theaters. You can't do almost anything right now other than kind of hang out at your house and play video games and watch a lot of movies. But even that gets a bit tired after a while. So maybe you can look at our ugly mugs as we record a podcast.
That's right. We are streaming, for your viewing pleasure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much pleasure they might get out of viewing us, but
I know, right? Limited.
I mean,
yeah.
Limited.
And it's got to be something, technically. Statistically, it's got to be, 0.01 at least,
Yeah. Yeah. A small iota of sexiness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we do our best, But, you get to a certain point in age and you don't really worry about that anymore. You're just like, fuck it, whatever. I don't care. And, so, yeah. And, of course, anybody who's watching us on Facebook Live, I see my buddy Sean from school, back where we went to school back years ago together. He's on, man, and he's cracked a joke before about if you played a drinking game to the Red Radio podcast amount of times that I say the F-bomb, you'd be drunk 7 minutes in. So that's usually pretty true.
Pretty true, yeah. I mean, pre-show, beginning of the show.
The last couple episodes are real. Yeah, the last couple episodes I realized I was pretty clean lately, But there could be a lot of fucks tonight. We'll see. I don't know.
Maybe not as much as that Limp Bizkit song, where if you say it 2 more times, then there's 36 in this rhyme. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yes, only you would remember some lame 90s trivia song. But that's what I bring you around for, Matt. You have
random facts.
You have the random trivia. So
I do know.
But yeah, let's.
You put me on a game show, I'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Jeopardy for nerds with random facts. I don't know. Yes. Then again, we did that at that Comicpalooza event. We totally sucked. So,
yeah, we did. That was debate. Though. That wasn't like debate. Knowledge. It was applied knowledge. You had to know, and then you had to apply it.
And there were people watching us, so we went into our introverted shells of like, I don't want to talk. I don't think we were either. We weren't drunk enough either. So.
No, we definitely weren't. I think we would have done better had maybe we took advantage of some of those happy hour specials, but we did not. Yeah. We did not that day.
No, we were subdued. That's okay. So. But, yeah, so again, man, welcome anybody watching on Facebook Live. We hope they are enjoying the show so far. Let's get into the show officially, as we always start the show with Download This, and we tell you what we've watched, streamed, maybe checked out this week in the midst of COVID-19 stay-at-home orders. People are watching a lot of stuff. Maybe not as much as we like, but I know you and me both watched a movie this week that was supposed to be in theaters right now, but ended up going on demand instead.
Yes. Yeah. Bloodshot. You're talking about Bloodshot, right?
Yeah.
Making sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you and I both felt the same way. Like maybe it started out pretty decent at least, and then just kind of didn't really go anywhere from there. It was like a straight line, right? Like the excitement didn't really go up. It didn't go down. I felt like maybe it can't, if you're looking at a heart rate monitor, it was the same beat, not a flat line, but pretty much. I felt like maybe I should have been more entertained by that movie, but, I guess I'm stuck with the $20 rental for life.
Yeah, I was going to give you a hard time, I was like, you and me, I share your Voodoo account, and I have access to it, and I saw you bought that. I'm like, Matt, why did you buy this? You haven't even seen it. And the reviews weren't kind to it. And, the comic
they were not.
The comics were very good from the 90s. Bloodshot, all those Valiant stuff was very well written. And it should have been better. And I was watching the movie, and I just, from the beginning of it, just generic trap after trap after trap. The strange thing is that Vin Diesel actually tries really hard to make the movie work. And that's one thing I felt about it. Like, it seems like he did care, but just the movie is just so stuck in just the same shit you've seen in so many movies before. The super soldier, he's being used, he's being manipulated. It was so predictable. I mean, from the beginning of the movie, and I'm going to spoil the fuck out of the movie right now. I don't care. From the beginning of the movie, did you not know that Guy Pearce was the bad guy? I mean, come on. It had it written all over it from the beginning of the movie. It's a shame because Vin Diesel's been trying so hard to get his own franchise outside of Fast and the Furious or playing Groot. He's wanted to do the Riddick stuff, and now he wanted to do a comic franchise with Bloodshot, and again ultimately another failure for him. And I don't. It's too easy to point the finger at him. This I think Bloodshot had potential. It just did not work. So it's not, and that I wouldn't say it's doing work because it's not a terrible movie. But it's just a very forgettable movie. It's just you watch it like, okay, I've seen this kind of stuff before.
Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it. I mean, so much potential, like you said, had a great, base to go off of. Success in the 90s with the comics, which I hadn't heard of these comics until this movie came out. And then I looked at a little bit of them, and I liked the artwork. But I never really got into the story. But you're telling me it was something that should have really propelled this movie, and it didn't. And I agree with you. I don't think it's for lack of trying. Vin Diesel tries pretty hard, but I think maybe it's just the movie. Maybe it's the direction. Maybe it's the story in itself. Outside of the beginning, I think the beginning's great. I think. If you're going to have a good performance out of Vin Diesel, you're going to put him in a situation where he's like losing a family member. Because I mean, you had a Man Apart, right? Man Apart was pretty good, and then now I was like, oh, cool. This is like we're gonna take the stuff that was good from a Man Apart, and we're gonna put it in this Vin Diesel scene, and it's going to be great. And it was great, but didn't carry on.
Yeah, no, it did not do well. And but I mean, it was something to watch. I mean, I appreciate that you paid for it because I was like, I'll watch it, and and because it was something that I had a passing interest at, but I knew I wasn't going to see it in the theaters. But I was like, I'll watch it eventually. And but if you're really bored at home and you want to spend, people kind of balk at these video on demand movies being $20 right now. But honestly, if you and your wife or go to an evening showing, when after 6 o'clock, you're going to pay $20. If you Matt, you and me have kids. If we go during the day, even at Cinemark, and pay $5 plus take our your 3 boys or 2 boys and my girl or whatever, you're going to spend $20. So really, it's not a terrible price, honestly. To rent a first run movie in some ways, because you're going to pay that at the theater anyway.
Popcorn. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. By the time you buy popcorn and drinks, you're going to spend $60, $70. So so for a first run film, I think it's not that bad.
No.
The more I think about it, and I think that the recent releases like Sonic the Hedgehog and Bloodshot and stuff that were in theaters and went straight to video on demand, and now Trolls, of course, this week, I think there will be more before it's all said and done. There's going to be a few movies in the summer that weren't able to find release dates that I think will probably end up going to video on demand as COVID-19 carries on and it takes longer to get back into movie theaters. I mean, obviously the big ones, the big ones, Black Widow, Top Gun, those are going to hold out for release dates. But I imagine there's going to be a few that are going to end up on the video on demand floor.
Yep, it's something my grandpa used to say. It has been done, it will be done, and it will be done again. And we're just going to see more and more in these.
Yeah, and it's different times. How do you feel like? Are you gonna? Let's say the theaters open up in July. Are you gonna jump back to go? I mean, it's gonna make you think. It's gonna make you think twice about it, though. Like you might consider going to a very early showing when there's less people. You're gonna think about where you're gonna sit. You might think like, do I really need to see this in theaters? Because until this kind of passes over.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the distancing will be in the back of your mind, and you may rethink going to the afternoon show. You may go early or late whenever the theater is very empty. So that's a good call out. I think that's smart, and really that's what I had been doing as of late, just because of the kids and trying to find a babysitter. It was just easy for us to go really late after the kids went to bed and go to a movie theater and catch a movie. And then there's no one there. So it's probably something I'll practice again.
You just leave the kids asleep and go to the movies?
No, well, she's there. Like, we go alone. It's one night I will go, and then the next night she'll go.
The way you said that, we're like, we just wait till the kids go to bed and we just go to the movies, and they're just sleeping, they're fine.
Whoops.
I was like, Oh, they'll fend for themselves if they wake up.
No. Yeah, just leave the dog in the house.
Right. All right. But, so we both watched Bloodshot, which, like I said, it was okay, not terrible. The only other thing this week that I really did was PlayStation right now. You're an Xbox user, so you suck. But PlayStation is offering 2 free games right now for until May 15th, I believe, or May 5th, might even be shorter. They're offering Uncharted, the complete Nathan Drake collection, which is all the first 3 Uncharted games remastered, and the PlayStation Network game Journey as part of their stay-at-home, play-at-home initiative to encourage people to stay home during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the Uncharted games I played the first 3 already, but they're so fantastic. Hey, I'll take free copies of them, especially remastered. They're Naughty Dog games, which is such a great game studio. And so if you're a PlayStation owner, go on and download your free copies of Uncharted and Journey right now, because it's a hell of a good deal. You'll get all 3 Uncharted games, which are really great. And then if you're a PlayStation Plus member, the free game this month is Uncharted 4. So you get all 4 Uncharted games this month for completely free, and that's not a bad deal at all. And incredible games, really really worth playing. And so that's the only other thing I really downloaded this week and started playing some of that last night. And other than that, I talked last week. I downloaded MLB The Show 20 because I'm missing baseball, so I'm deep into playing that.
Yeah, I finally finished. I hadn't played Diablo until last week, and I finally Diablo 3, and I finally beat it. Now I've started on the expansion pack, and then I also saw that they had done some markdowns, and I'm also an Xbox Gold member, so I downloaded Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, and I haven't gotten to play it yet. I just downloaded it, and the kids were playing Galaga. They've never played Galaga, and I was like, "You gotta play Galaga." Nice. I was like, even Avengers made a reference to Galaga. Tony Stark's in the hull of the ship. That man's playing Galaga. Didn't think we'd notice, but we did. So I was like, yeah, you gotta find out what that game looked like. So that's about it for me. I mean, still working on Diablo. Didn't get to play Resident Evil 3 again. But
it's kind of how it felt like
one day.
At the first couple weeks we had to stay at home a lot. I was watching stuff. Like I watched Picard and watched a few movies, and now I'm kind of in that game phase. Been playing more games and stuff, and not watching as many movies. And I'm also like a Vine. There's so much TV out there to watch on Netflix or whatever. Like I cringe at committing to anything because I'm terrible about finishing stuff. There's so many things on Netflix or stuff. I watched like the first 2 episodes of it. I never go back and watch it. I'm really bad about that. Yeah, I have to like a TV show, especially now with so much out there. It has to really grasp me in the first hour or 2 hours of the show. Otherwise, I'm done with it already, and that's just the way it is now with there's so much out there. Even though I have enjoyed Lost of Space, and I probably will go back and finish that, especially since they announced that it's only going to be 3 seasons and be done. They're going to do one more season. So, if I know that they're going to tell a beginning, middle, and end of the story, maybe I'll give it a chance. That's another thing, too. Anytime a show is brand new, it's the first season, you risk, like, committing your time to it. Then what if nothing happens? It ends up getting canceled. I've been burned a lot of times on shows I've enjoyed that end up not making it very far. So it's something to consider. Yeah. But other than that, and there's still movies I want to see that I haven't written. I still want to see Parasite, the one Best Picture. I still want to. I got a casual interest to see the Bad Boys for Life since I saw the first 2. 1917. I still haven't seen that. I wanted to see that. So but if you watch it all the first week of pandemic, you have nothing to watch later. So you got to pace it.
Yeah, have to spread it out, or else you've watched all the good stuff.
Yeah, so eventually I will get to all these movies I want to see in the next few weeks because I have a feeling we're still going to be staying home for quite a while. And that's okay. Rather people be safe.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's all you played and watched too?
Just Diablo, and I haven't even played Galaga yet. I downloaded it and the kids were all over it. I haven't been able to pick up Resident Evil 3 yet. Again, I got a little ways through the game and haven't been able to pick it back up. Yeah. Can't play a zombie game with the kids up, so I've got to be selective. And kind of got caught up in Diablo since I was going so fast through it.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. Let's see if these zombie heads get shot up. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
I lived through Night of Living. I lived through Night of Living Dead. I was okay.
I saw RoboCop when I was 6, so I saw Peter Weller get blown to bits, and I always bring that up. I'm like, I was like, do you not know what that scene looks like? He's like ripped to bits, man. I was like, that scene is brutal today, and again, to an extent.
And see, and now we know what's wrong with you.
Yep, yeah. It's like he saw Peter Weller get blown to bits by Red Foreman.
Scarred for life. Yeah. All right, well, let's get into today's featured film. A true classic in the highest sense of the word, one of the best sequels of all time. In fact, these next 2 weeks, this week and the next week's movie, are 2 films that, along with Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Jaws and some of the classics, that these 2 films I could put in that list of movies that shaped my movie-going experience and films that I like. And, of course, this week it is Mel Gibson's The Road Warrior. which is nothing but a classic. I mean, that's that being said about it.
Best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I usually you summarize the last couple of movies, so I'll summarize this one. Essentially, it's after the events of Mad Max. Max is roaming the wastelands, still coping with the death of his wife and his child, and trying to survive. So essentially, he comes across a group of marauders at the beginning of the film that try to take his car and his gasoline. He fights them off, and he ends up coming across a group of. There's a little scene at the beginning where he meets this guy with a gyrocopter, and it's a small scene where he shows his toughness, but he becomes important later on in the movie. But he ends up meeting these settlers who are struggling with these martyrs who are trying to take all their gas and supplies. So ultimately, it's a classic Magnificent Seven type style film where Max decides to help the settlers, even though the bad guys, Humungus, try to convince Max to help them too. But Max ultimately chooses to help the settlers and fight back against them. And what pursues are some of the greatest action sequences made in any film, even by today's standards. I think this movie holds up remarkably well. And of course, Max ends up helping the settlers escape and defeat the martyrs. And lots of cool stuff ensues in this film. And I don't think I need to explain it all because most people have probably seen the Road Warrior by now. But that's what the Road Warrior, in a sense, is a survival film.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what's not to love about this movie? Post-apocalyptic, leather, some kind of weird leg brace, a cool-ass dog, a booby-trapped Ford Falcon, and a double-barreled shotgun, a feral kid with a crazy boomerang that no kid should have, probably, and then football pad armor, all over the place.
Yes. It's funny, I was watching this the other day. Right now we're going through a situation in the world where with the COVID-19 virus, and people have cracked jokes and stuff about what the apocalypse was going to look like. And as a teenager and stuff, when I watched The Road Warrior, I really did always think that that's what the apocalypse was going to look like. It's going to be like people dressed up all badass looking and fighting over their vehicles and gas. And of course, it's nothing like that. It's a bunch of us sitting around in our pajamas at home, but hey,
yes.
As a young person seeing this movie, I'm like, wow, the future is going to suck, and, but anyway, all jokes aside, yeah, The Road Warrior is such one of those films that it's definitely on that list of 100 films you should see before you die. And this movie was a massive success too. The first Mad Max was a moderate success. It's successful enough that George Miller was able to make the sequel, but this one was a huge success because it was shot on a pretty low budget. It was all shot in Australia, so they kept the costs down. And the movie made like $25 million here in America. It made about $10 million in its homeland of Australia. It was a big hit in Europe. And for 81, right? Yeah, 81 standards. Yeah. This movie was quite successful for a small film with an actor that was still, even at that time, Mel Gibson was still relatively unknown. He had some success because of the first Mad Max, but this is probably the movie that put him over the edge even further and made him a star coming out of Australia. And for a film to come out of Australia and be so successful in America, we talked about when we did Mad Max that was a huge deal, and they followed it up with this one. And this is one of those rare occurrences too, where you make a sequel that's not just bit better, but it does better at the box office. It's a better film. It does bigger numbers, and it spawned a franchise ultimately.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this movie's so good. James Cameron said it inspired him to make Terminator. And so if this is the reason why we have the Terminator and partially why it was so successful, then it's good enough to be on that list of 100 movies to see before you die, or 1,000 movies to see before you die, whatever that number is to see before you die. This definitely has to be on it just for the chase scene alone. And I mean, just what they were able to do, speeding up, the slower moving vehicles because of the terrain, the practical effects, some of the scenes that weren't even supposed to happen, like at the end, the motorcycle biker was chasing Max. At the end, he wasn't supposed to fly and tumble like he did, but they included it in the scene, and it was great. It was very memorable. Just George Miller, or Frank Miller. George Miller.
Oh, George Miller.
I'm getting confused. Right. George Miller. I mean, just what he was able to do and what he had to do to get here. I mean, working extra jobs as a doctor, trying to get night shifts and more money to finance this first film, and man, it paid off. And right. He stuck with local talent to keep the cost low, and that's how we got Mel Gibson. So, man, this franchise is really spawned a lot.
And he had a little help this time, too, with Warner Brothers already agreeing to distribute the film to America. So he had some Warner Brothers money behind him, too. He didn't have to worry about doing the guerrilla-style shooting like he did with the first one. So he was able to actually shoot this as a proper film. And it's edited better than the first Mad Max. And the first Mad Max is really good for what it is, because it's one of the first true independent films, and it's really well done. But then they took this movie, and it's a little bit higher budget. It's shot more professionally. Cinematography wise, this movie got a lot of credit for how good it looks. Just showing the landscapes of Australia and the deserts and all that to make this look like a futuristic film that was shot in basically George Miller's backyard.
Yeah, essentially. And it's funny because you say that you felt like this would be the apocalyptic future that we would come to. It says at the beginning of this film, in the not so distant future. So right. It's like, ooh, this could happen.
Definitely.
And who knows? Maybe we haven't passed the leather clad apocalypse yet with the Humungus, the Lord Humungus.
Dude, and, just no leather chap. Just no chaps showing your ass, dude.
Yeah, no chaps on the ass. Yeah, let's just toss those out the window. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't realize at first that crazy biker with the mohawk is actually the bad guy from Commando. Right. The dude that looks like a cheap imitation of Freddie Mercury in Commando. Yeah. It's this guy. It's weird. Completely different approach to the antagonist role. And completely threw me off. I did not recognize him at all.
Yeah. What's cool too is George Miller, shot a lot of very similar he did to the first one. He told the extras and the actors to bring stuff you had from home to help out with the costume departments. And the costume departments did do a lot of it themselves, but I think that's how some of the football pads showed up. Just oddball things, because he wanted to look like things that you might grab out of your house during the apocalypse. And I wonder if the guy who played Humungus had assless chaps like that. It's like I was like, this makes
someone's just going to grab assless chaps.
Yeah, it's like, that's what I'm going to wear during the apocalypse. I'm just going to show my butt cheeks and be like.
We all know someone that would probably grab that and be like, "Oh, got to have these. This is an essential. This is essential."
Yeah. But, you talk about this movie too being highly influential. It even George even talked about how it influenced him when he went back to do Fury Road, and he went back and looked at this film. And there have been some people that consider. I never really picked up on it. I think these are people reach a little bit that said Fury Road is in some ways a remake of this. Only it's Max trying to get to the Greenland instead of getting gasoline. I could see the format of the film is set up similar, but to me, I think they're completely different stories in the same wasteland. And I always looked at the Mad Max films. We talked about this when we did Fury Road. It's kind of like James Bond, just different stories in the evolution of that character. There's not the continuity may not be exactly right, but I don't. I think they're just different stories we tell. In fact, because Thunderdome is completely different from this movie, even
completely, yeah. You've got the music video. You've got the small guy saying "Who run Bartertown" all the time, and then you have the Dome of Death, of course. That is Thunderdome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and this movie, and overseas it was marketed as Mad Max 2 because the first Mad Max was successful, but not a huge success in America, and that's part of how the Road Warrior came about, because they kind of retitled it for American audiences, and because they might not have known what a Mad Max 2 was. But over the years, though, when you watch the film, even on Blu-ray or DVD, it actually says Mad Max 2 at the beginning of the movie. And I remember the first time I ever saw that, I was like, Because this is a film where I saw this one before I saw Mad Max. I think a lot of people did, and I always remember being the Road Warrior. And I think when it came out like on special edition DVD or something in the late '90s, early 2000s, and I watched the movie and it said Mad Max 2 at the beginning, I was like, what? And I think that I had seen Mad Max, but I don't think I ever put two and two together that they were like sequels to each other. Because they're such kind of different films.
Yeah, I think we partly got the not as expected success in the U.S. due to the marketing, and then the horrible dub that they did to the first Mad Max. They had I think it was different American actors doing dubs on top of the voices, except for I think Mel Gibson did his own dub, but they just made some mistakes with how it was marketed and just what really wasn't marketed like an action film usually is marketed in USA, and that's why it did so well in Australia and even Europe versus here. In fact, I mean, it was so successful. People don't realize the first Mad Max was so successful it outdid Star Wars in Australia, at least in Australia.
Yeah, and which is so strange. There's people today that they know about the Road Warrior and Thunderdome, and of course the new one. There's people today that don't realize that there was a Mad Max 1. And that's how underground the film went in America for many years. And the Road Warrior, of course, was a huge success. And then I think people discovered the original after that. But there are still people today that don't know about the original film.
Yeah, I know I didn't. Like I was introduced to the man known as Max in the Road Warrior. I was like maybe 10, and I think it was a rerun on TV. And I thought it was cool because the first time I ever saw it, it came up on the car chase, and it was the girl in football armor getting shot, and then you had the feral kid cut off one of the guy's arms with the boomerang, and that's the first scene I saw, and I was like, I gotta see this thing from the beginning, and that's how I was introduced. 10 years old, about 96, probably.
Yeah, and then you being a car guy, man. I mean, the Ford Interceptor, like for me, it's a Ford, right? That's it.
Yeah, it's Ford Falcon. That model was only released in Europe and Australia.
Yeah, like Max's Interceptor is like probably my second favorite movie car next to the Batmobile, of course. I always thought the car in this movie was cool. It pissed me off in Fury Road where the car gets destroyed basically within the first half of the movie. I was like, no, you can't destroy his car.
So heartbreaking.
Yes, and the car very much becomes a character in this film, in the Road Warrior. It's part of Max, it's part of who he is, and without the car, you feel like he can't survive. Of course, until in Fury Road, we learn that he can survive.
Yeah, this car is highly sought after. They only made 900 of these. And, my dad was a huge fan of the Ford Falcon, and they never released them in the U.S. You were only able to buy them overseas, import them in. That's how they got into the U.S. Basically fans of this movie. And we wouldn't have even had it had one of the guys that worked on the first set save it, because originally they were going to scrap the original car. They wouldn't have had it. So luckily someone kept it, and we got it in this film. And it's great. I mean, that Ford Falcon's awesome. For the longest time, I didn't even know it was a Ford Falcon. I thought it was a Firebird. It was thought it was Kit, basically. But people have made replicas of this car out of 83 and 81 Firebirds. But yeah, this one's a Ford. This one is a Ford Falcon.
Yeah, and it's cool. And overall, though, man, the Road Warrior, I think, is one of the great sequels of all time. And not just a great sequel; it's a great action movie. I like this movie a lot. I never get tired of watching it. I've seen it so many times. It's just one of those movies, though, that I think if it's on television, you stop and you watch it and you look for your favorite movie sequences. We always talk about our favorite sequence of the movie, but I don't even know if I have one of this movie. I like the whole movie from beginning to end. Truly a great action film. It's amazing you think about 1981. You had The Road Warrior and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Two of the greatest action films ever made. Still to this day, arguably I've said before, Raiders of the Lost Ark is arguably the best action film ever made, and then The Road Warrior is right up there with it, and just a great movie. I give this easily a solid A plus. I think The Road Warrior is fantastic. It's an instant classic. Well, maybe not instant, but it is definitely now a classic.
I have to agree with that. A plus territory here. Not much wrong with that movie. And it still holds up today. It's still entertaining.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. And I like how the theories came out that the feral boy was Max grown up in The Road Warrior, and of course George Miller shot that down. But it's interesting to think what that it could have been. And of course at the end of this film, it's revealed that the feral boy is the narrator of the film. And when he's all grown up and Max becomes a legend at the end of this film. Because in some ways, George Miller never really intended to do a third one. He wanted to end this film with Max being a legend. But the movie made money and money talks. So they came back and they did a third one, of course.
Tina Turner.
Yeah. Which I imagine one day we will probably have to cover that. So we have all 4 films completely done on the road. I don't think we've completed an entire franchise on the show yet, but if we do Thunderdome, we'll have the entire franchise done.
Yeah, we haven't. I mean, that's a good point. Yeah. Outside of single movies, but yeah, sequels. Even Star Wars. I mean, there's a lot of Star Wars films,
right?
And we haven't done all the Star Wars films.
No. But we have Empire coming up in just a few weeks.
Yes.
Episode
we will touch
200.
on that one.
Hint, hint, hint. Episode 200 is going to be Empire Strikes Back. And, damn, we just gave away a secret, but that's okay. We don't mind giving away a few things because we want people to come back. We want people to come back every week and listen to the show. So that's okay. We'll give away some secrets along the way. And but yeah, so The Road Warrior, instant classic. Most people that are listening to the show have seen it before. And it's just one of those films. It's just a great film to watch. And if you are listening to Rebel Radio podcast and you've never seen the Road Warrior, get the fuck on, stop listening to us, and go watch the movie. It's like,
yes, go ahead and rent it. You've got your stimulus money in. You can spend $5 on the rental. I swear, and you won't regret it.
Not one bit. So, all right. Well, let's get some news. There's actually some news, man. It's been last few weeks with COVID-19. Most of the news has been very negative, films getting moved back and stuff. But there's actually some real news this week. Of course, the big news is COVID-19 related. So I should say it's not all the news is positive. There's some negative news. But San Diego Comic-Con, man. San Diego Comic-Con officially canceled for the first time in 51 years. We kind of saw this coming, but, it had to be done. They have to keep people safe. And so we kind of knew this was going to happen. But this is huge, man. I mean, this is a major pop culture event of the year. The famous Hall H that has all the big panels where Marvel or DC, wherever it is talking about their upcoming projects for the next year. But everything has changed now because of COVID-19. And this is the big blow to the industry we love, comics and science fiction and stuff. And I'm not worried about so much the movie studios, but there's a lot of other industry people that rely on San Diego Comic-Con to get their word out there. And I guess things will turn digital. People put stuff out there digitally. There's a lot of talks about online panels and things like that to get words out. But it's interesting. It's come to this, and unfortunate too.
Yeah, hopefully they do something similar to what Comicpalooza does, and put some vendors online to where people can at least get something, support an artist, someone that was depending on this con, something like that. But
yeah,
very disappointing.
Yeah, and but safety first, and I guess that's what's important. And the next big con this summer is there's another Star Wars celebration scheduled for this August, and you have a feeling that any day's coming now that's going to be closed up too, because that's in Anaheim. So it's all 2020 is just fucking canceled, man. That's just
pretty much.
And,
unfortunately,
and yeah, I just wanted to see Top Gun. Damn it. Now that's a movie I'd fucking pay $20 for on demand, but I also want to see on the big screen.
I would too.
Yeah,
that's a movie you'd have to see on the big screen.
Yeah, so DC has been toying with the idea of doing a Justice League Dark for several years now. You know, Guillermo del Toro was developing it into a film. Then it was going to become maybe a television series. Well, it's still going to become a television series, but all of a sudden it's not Del Toro. It's J.J. Abrams is going to be bringing Justice League Dark to HBO Max. Yeah, quite big news this week. You know, as much as I love Guillermo del Toro, because I do, I'm wondering if he's kind of hard to work with, man, because there's been several projects of his over the years that he's developed, and then all of a sudden the studio says no, or it ends up going to someone else. And this is another one of those that falls under that category. So Del Toro is no longer doing Justice League Dark, but J.J. Abrams is, which is still good hands, obviously, because J.J. is fantastic. But, HBO Max is still launching May 15th. That's still the plan. HBO plans on putting out there their new streaming service, and it's going to include a lot of Warner Brothers stuff and all the HBO stuff. And so sometime in the next year or so, we'll get Justice League Dark, it looks like.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. I mean, anything that comes from Guillermo is going to be great.
He's J.J. Abrams.
I mean, Abrams, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bad. But I think that it's going to be a lot of lens flare, obviously. But great lens flare. Great lens flare.
All right. The Green Hornet, man, a long time favorite of a lot of people's, comics and the TV series back in the day. And then the movie with Seth Rogen from a few years ago, which, isn't a terrible movie. I actually don't dislike that Green Hornet movie. I thought it was kind of fun. They want to reboot the Green Hornet again, and they're doing it kind of where they're going to cast the Green Hornet and Kato possibly first, and then see who their actors are, then start developing a script. And I'm down with this. I think Green Hornet's a cool enough character that in this world of comic book movies and comic book characters all over the place, that I think there's a place for him. And I felt the Seth Rogen movie is, like I said, it's not terrible, but it just didn't do enough to make a franchise out of it. It wasn't taken seriously because it was kind of a comedy. But we'll see where they go with this.
Yeah, and we'll see who they get to get cast into Bruce Lee's spot.
Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. We got our first look this week at I can never say his last name. The guy who made Blade Runner 2049. We got our first look at his Dune movie. Of course, Dune is a series of books that started in 1965 by Frank Herbert, and it's got a very loyal, very hardcore fan base that was not always kind to the David Lynch movie from the 80s or to the sci-fi miniseries from the believe late 90s, early 2000s. So Dune fans are pretty hardcore about what's done with their books. And Vanilla View, I think that's how you say his last name, is doing the Dune movie, and he's splitting the book. He's only doing half the book for part one because he realized there's no way you can do the entire book in one movie, and if it's successful enough, he's already been told like there would be a sequel. I don't know a lot about Dune, but I know enough to know that it could be cool. I know George Lucas was somewhat influenced by the idea of world building that Hebert did in Dune for Star Wars' world building, and the cast is fantastic. I mean, Jason Momoa, Oscar Isaacs, Zendaya. What's his name? The bad guy from Skyfall. God damn it!
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Spanish actor is really good. Just a really, really great cast. The looks of the film look good. I don't know when we'll get a trailer. Right now, the movie's still scheduled for this December, assuming theaters are back open and everything. But I'm kind of excited for it in a way. I think it's going to be a really good film. I really like what he did with Blade Runner 2049, so Dune could be pretty good.
No, I enjoyed the film as well. I didn't even know that Batista had played the man in the beginning until you told me, yeah, that's Batista. I mean,
right.
I think he's gotten a little more out of some of these actors that, maybe they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. I mean, great performance from Ryan Gosling, Batista, and the other rogue cops in Ryan Gosling's unit. Just within cells interlinked.
Yeah,
but
so I think
this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, should be cool. And lastly, to tide people over until season 2 of The Mandalorian comes out, on May 4th, Star Wars Day, on Disney Plus, there's going to be a documentary series on the making of The Mandalorian for people to watch on Disney Plus. So that should be kind of cool. They did a lot of The Mandalorian was done with digital sets and stuff, and some practical effects. So it's going to be really cool to see how they made it. And that'll give you some to watch until season 2 comes out later this year. The new Maleficent sequel is also going to be going to Disney Plus, and there's been some rumor out there that Disney Plus might drop Rise of Skywalker early for people during COVID-19, but we'll wait and see on that. And they did announce their Artemis Fowl, which was supposed to be out last year, based on the famous series of books, is getting a Disney Plus release, and I believe it's the first week of June that's going to be out on Disney Plus. So,
I would suspect they do it.
But I'm always down for more Star Wars. So, man, I'll watch The Mandalorian, the making of documentary series. That should be pretty cool.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. But that's all the news I got, unless you had anything.
Just, what I was telling you about earlier today. Paul Haddad, voiced Leon Kennedy in the original Resident Evil 2, passed away. He was 56. Cause of death hasn't been announced yet, but you may also remember him from the X-Men animated series. He voiced Quicksilver, and he also voiced cartoons in Adventures of Super Mario 3. May have been correlated to the Super Mario show. I don't remember too many. I think I remember some of the cartoons. Yeah. But yeah, I do remember X-Men, but I don't remember how many episodes Quicksilver may have been on it. But Leon Kennedy is a huge character for me. That was probably one of the first games I really got into, on PlayStation. PlayStation 2 for Resident Evil 2, and then Diablo, of course. Those two were my first two rated mature games that really grew on me, and it's sad to see that someone that started something great in the gaming community has gone. Wish his family well, and hopefully we don't lose anybody else this year.
Yeah. There you go. And I want to give a shout out too. I've been following it. We added him to our Rebel Radio Facebook group. It's a local project. It's a local project called The Crow Fun Boy, and it's a short film based on the graphic novel of The Crow. And anybody that's ever listened to the show knows me and Matt are both big fans of The Crow. The original graphic novel is one of the first adult graphic novels I ever read, and so they're doing a short film that's a small part of the graphic novel called The Crow Fun Boy. And it's all shot here in Houston locally. You can follow them on Facebook. And the reason I want to talk about this is next Saturday night, the 25th, they're going to premiere the film on Facebook Live. And you can watch it. And so we won't have a new episode out to talk about it before that one comes out, because we always record on Friday nights. So I want to give those guys props, and I'm going to watch it and check it out. I'm looking forward to it. But that's The Crow Fun Boy. You can follow them on Facebook, and they're going to be premiering their film next Saturday night on Facebook Live. So I think that's a pretty cool project they have going.
Yeah, I mean, anything that is Crow related and that is good is definitely worth watching. And why not? Why not watch this and have some fun in this watch party? And I know I'm going to be watching on the 25th.
Yeah, so that should be pretty cool. So let's preview next week's movie before we get out of here. As we are continuing with our sequels that made us month, and next week we conclude that month with we talked a really great sequel today, but next week, arguably, again, one of the greatest sequels ever made and greatest science fiction action movies ever made. And that is James Cameron's Aliens.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! Get on the ready line, Marine! Get something to die! Get on the ready line!
Get your light up here.
Keep back, don't scare.
Movement! Talk to me, Hudson!
I got signals. I got readings in front and behind. There's nothing back here. Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
Get them out of there!
They cut the power.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals.
There's movement all over the place!
5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens. This time, it's war.
And
Awesome
I started
movie.
realizing we had not done a James Cameron film, had we? I mean,
Yeah, we
you know,
did
James
Terminator
Cameron-
and Terminator 2.
Oh, that's right. We did Terminator and Terminator 2. So, yeah. You know, James Cameron, as great as a director he is, does have a very small filmography as far as film. So sometimes you forget what he did. But, so yeah. So next week, man, Aliens. This is a movie that it's just hardcore from beginning to end. It's fantastic. It's such an amazing film. We will probably, more likely, we'll discuss it in text, but cover the director's cut version, since that seems to be the pretty standard version everyone watches now, with the added scenes with Newt and all that. Because most of the time when you buy the Blu-ray or DVD, it's automatic when you put it in. It's the director's cut version nowadays. And Aliens is a movie that I remember. Again, it's very similar to The Road Warrior. I saw Aliens before I saw Alien, just like I saw The Road Warrior before I saw Mad Max. And I don't know if that's the same for you, but yeah.
I saw Aliens before I saw Alien.
Yeah.
Because it's, by the time it made it to TV and I watched it, it was, that's the only thing that was playing versus Alien. But
Right.
Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, can't go wrong.
Yeah, no, I remember. I'll probably retell this story next week, but to preview the movie, I remember my grandmother used to live off of Airline and 45 over there, real close to where there used to be an outdoor movie theater, or a drive-in theater. And I remember being able to see part of Aliens playing on that screen from my grandmother's apartment building up on the top floor. And I didn't know what was going on. I just remember being about 10, 11 years old and seeing these really scary things on the screen across the street. And, of course, eventually I ended up seeing the movie later on, and I realized, so that's what was going on in that movie. And that's my little brief. Yeah, that's my little brief Alien story. But that should be a fun one to talk about next week. And I think Long is going to be back on the show with us next week and talk Aliens, the evil Dr. Tran rejoining the Rebel Radio podcast next week on the show.
Yes.
So we shall welcome him back with live streams as well and social distancing. Yeah.
Yes, and we'll ask him how his cookbook is coming.
Yes. That's his secret project, the Long cookbook. But, wait. Did I just make a Long joke? No, never mind. He's going to kill us when he hears this show, you motherfuckers. But that's all I got tonight, and or we got. And but as always, go to the rebelradiopodcast.com for all your needs and follow us on social media. And anybody who's been logging into the Facebook Lives, we appreciate it. And I can't do a show without giving a shout out to our Patreons. We did drop our little first mini cast this week as Arnold reviewed the Deadpool. This week we'll be recording our Highlander 2 episode, and for our Patreons. So as we get ready for that, for just $2 a month, man, you can get an exclusive episode every month and more stuff from us. And pins and stickers are coming soon for those in the second tier and more. So we appreciate all our Patreons that pay their hard-earned money to get a little extra from the Rebel Radio podcast. And we hope that if you haven't joined, you consider joining too, so you get some exclusive stuff every month. But again, thanks as always for listening, and we do appreciate it. And this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
And remember, stay safe, have a good week, and as always, just go there
and do it.
Hey, you're listening to the Rebel Radio podcast. My name is Sean Patrick Flannery, and I hope you dig the podcast.